If you've ever played Monopoly, you already know the whole game is about owning houses on the most squares and scaling those up to hotels. Every time somebody lands on one of yours, you get paid. And in the game, scaling up is hard because every roll depends on the dice. But in real life, there are no dice. You have full ownership and full control over every move you make on the board, which means this stops being a luck game and starts being a skill game. And each skill has its own cheat code. So today, I'm breaking down the best 3 cheat codes that allow me to run 17 properties doing over $178,000 a month without any of them having my name on the deed, so you can build a similar real estate portfolio that pays you every month without owning a single property, even if you have no money to start. Now, before cheat code 1 even kicks in, you gotta lock down your color set. In Monopoly, that's choosing what streets you'll dominate. But in Airbnb, that's simply choosing which guest you're playing for, and it comes down to 4 questions you gotta answer before you ever spend $1 setting up a property. Those are what brings them to your city: how long they stay, what their budget looks like, and what they expect when they walk in the door. And if you get those 4 right, the whole path becomes clear, whether it's short-term rentals for vacation hubs and weekenders, mid-term rentals for traveling nurses and corporate relocations, or co-hosting for when you run someone else's property for a cut without putting up any rent yourself. But if you do them wrong, no cheat code matters, no matter how hard you grind. That's why it's super important to make sure you get those 4 things right. Now, assuming you know the game you're playing, cheat code 1 solves the pain that kills most operators before they ever sign their first lease. The pain of grinding for months trying to get a landlord to say yes, getting hung up on every single call, and walking away thinking arbitrage doesn't work for you or somebody like you. And cheat code 1 is the pitch. In Monopoly, you can't develop a property until you control the trade. But most operators don't understand that it's the exact same in real life. The pitch is the trade that puts the property on your side of the board, and without the trade, you're not building anything. In every arbitrage deal, there's market, property pitch, and listing. And the pitch is the bridge between you and the property. Without it, the rest of the board doesn't matter. You can have perfect credit and the best market in the country, but if your landlord won't hand you over the keys, you've got absolutely nothing. And when I locked my first property down, your boy didn't know any of this. I maxed out my personal Navy Federal credit card because I'd never even known or even knew that business credit existed. I was making cold calls between work shifts while I was in the Navy from the back seat of my truck and getting hung up on by every single landlord that I called. And it took me a year of grinding to figure out that one tiny shift in framing was what flipped the call from a hang up into them saying yes. And the whole pitch comes down to one word. Now, that one word can be the difference between the landlord insisting on closing that deal with you or closing the call in 30 seconds the moment you call them. That word is Airbnb. Now, when a landlord hears Airbnb, they picture parties and damage, and the conversation is over from there. But LEAD is a corporate housing agency, meaning a business that rents furnished houses to traveling nurses, consultants, and folks on a multi-week work assignment, and you can have the entire conversation at your fingertips. You mention your liability insurance, your cleaning team, turning the unit between every guest, and a 12-month lease, or typically I'm signing a longer term lease of 2, 3, 4 years at a time with guaranteed rent and every single month, whether the unit is booked out or not. And you don't volunteer the word Airbnb at any point in that conversation. Even when the landlord asks where you're going to list or post the unit, you tell them you're listing on extended stay platforms for traveling professionals, which is the truth because Airbnb itself runs corporate housing listings under that exact category. All the landlord cares about is the framing. The framing isn't the words you say on the call, really before you even pick up the phone. You've got an LLC set up, meaning a legal business entity in the company's name and not yours. Plus, you have business bank accounts, business website, business email that takes all of that and makes it look very professional, and a professional email, like I said, to address and attach the whole thing all together. So when the landlord Googles you while you're still on the line and sees a business with everything that it's supposed to have, not some dude running a side hustle out of his garage, without the paperwork, you're just a piece on the board, on his board. And one of my students, actually, Daniel, ran this exact play. We got him approved for $83,000 in 0% interest business credit cards that he used for paying the rent, the deposit, the furniture, the setup, everything without having to use any of his own personal cash or personal funds. He ran the same pitch that I just talked about. And we actually had my team negotiate the property for him, where we pitched the landlord for him on his behalf. At first, they never say the word Airbnb on the call. And 3 days later, he had locked in his first property in Scottsdale while he was on vacation in Australia, so he never even had to step foot in the home. Now, that property pulled in over almost $15,000 in its first month, and now averages over $13,000 a month in revenue, with over $6,000 a month in profit on a market most operators get crushed in, with February running 25 out of 28 nights booked and March pulling in $15,000 with only 3 open nights on the calendar. And Daniel still hasn't had to step foot in this house to this day to get anything done, set up, managed whatsoever, right? Now, once you've got this pitch down, this is where most operators stall for months, 6, 12 months at a time, and what I call drift, pulling competitors and sending landlords emails but never filtering deals before they sign the lease, which is how you lose half a year with nothing in the bank to show for it and savings drained into a hole that arbitrage was supposed to fill. So cheat code 2 is the rule that filters out 90% of bad deals before you ever sign a lease, and I call that rule the 10-day rule. See, Monopoly's whole edge is knowing the rent before you buy it, and arbitrage works in a similar way. If a unit doesn't cover its lease in 10 nights of bookings, I typically walk away from it before you ever sign anything. Because if a rent on a property, say, is $3,000 a month, and the competitors, the best comparable properties that are in similar size, location, that offer the same thing as your property, are booked in that market for $300 a night, then at 10 nights of bookings, you cover your rent. And everything past that lands on your side of the board, AKA profit. And if it takes you 10 nights or less to cover the rent, the deal is definitely worth signing. But unless it's a badass property and it takes 11, 12 nights or more, I would walk away from it. Skip this filter and you're paying the lease every month on a unit that doesn't and isn't going to get booked out. Even if it does, you're not going to be making very much profit. Now, to run that rule the right way, you've got to pull competitors on the exact unit type in the exact neighborhood that you're targeting, because the citywide average will hand you a number that has nothing to do with the unit that you're looking at specifically. What you're looking for is occupancy rates from the last 12 months and the average daily rate from the last 12 months, meaning what percent of nights similar units to the one that you're looking at are booked, plus the average daily rate during peak season, the average daily rate during the slowest stretch of the year. Some markets look like a gold mine on a Tuesday in February and underwater come September. And the 12-month picture is what you screen against to prevent making that mistake. And once the comps work, comps being competitors, you don't sign anything until you've also pulled local short-term regulations and making sure that everything makes sense. All right, and also checking with the HOA, meaning the building's private rule book that can ban short-term rentals outright, because cities and HOAs can shut down operators faster than landlords ever do or would. So you always want to check that first. Now just think about a market where rent is $4,500 a month, and the comparable units, typically we're checking on platform like AirDNA to see the best performing properties. Say comparable units are charging $200 a night. That would mean that's 22 full nights of bookings just to cover that $4,500 a month in rent, which means you're underwater 6 months of the year before you even do anything with the property, right? Now, plenty of markets I screen, or plenty of properties that I screen, don't pass the 10-day rule. And that's the entire point. Before you hop in the comments saying my city's different, or my property that I'm looking at is different, whatever, it's not different. You just have to run the math and make sure it makes sense per property. Take my Phoenix portfolio, for example. Properties ranging from $3,850 all the way up to $7,000 a month in rent, where I charge anywhere from $350 all the way up to $1,000 a night on average, depending on the property, with each property profiting $5,000 to $15,000 per month. And when the Super Bowl came to Phoenix, just that weekend, my properties in Phoenix pulled in almost $100,000, because the Super Bowl allowed me to charge up to, and in some properties, over $2,000 a night. That's what happens when you're locked into the right market with the math on your side from the start. Every one of those properties has a price and a rent. The 10-day rule is the formula that scores them. Now, before we go to cheat code number 3, the one that ties everything together, you just learned into a portfolio that runs without you. If you want to be more in depth and learn more about this and these cheat codes and the rest of the entire blueprint on how to do this from A to Z, I'll drop a link down in the description below to see if we have any slots open this month inside my Rent to Riches program, where I'll show you exactly how this works and where we can acquire 0% interest business funding for you, negotiate properties for you, and get the property set up and launched completely for you, and then set up all the automations to be managed for you. Now, this third cheat code is the move that decides whether you're building a business or just buying yourself a more expensive job. Most operators get to a couple properties in and then they realize they've replaced their 9 to 5, but with something that demands even more of their time than a 9 to 5 would. They're profitable technically, but they haven't taken a vacation in over a year, and the calendar doesn't loosen up the further along they go. Now, I've been there, so joke's on me. I thought scaling and growing and getting more properties was gonna fix that problem, but in Monopoly, owning the property is step one. The wealth comes from putting houses on every tile, meaning upgrading what each property pays you. And you can't put houses on every tile if you're rolling the dice yourself every turn. The owners building hotels have somebody else rolling for them. There was a stretch where I was making more money than I'd ever seen in my life, and I almost walked away from the entire thing just from the amount of time and stress that it took, because I was doing it all myself, because the numbers were printing, but the execution was eating me alive. Cheat code 3 is the move that pulled me out of that. It's the same move every operator running 10, 20, 30, 100 properties on autopilot has already made. They've stopped trying to be the entire team and do everything themselves. Most operators are still doing every job in the business themselves, the same way I was for years. Top operators have built out the team that handles everything they used to handle a loan, so their entire job is finding the next deal and signing the lease. And the team isn't only about delegating busy work, it's about replicating the play across multiple deals and properties all at once. Because once the pitch is right and it's in someone else's mouth and the right script is running calls without you, you're not chasing one property at a time anymore. You're running the play across 20 deals every single month, so every dollar of cash flow rolls straight into the next property, just like picking up another house every time you pass go. And money loves speed, which is why every top operator I know gets the property live instantly, almost like the same week the keys get into their hand or into their interior design team's hand. That is why the systems that we have set up to not only operate my business, but for all of my clients as well, just like I said, where get the LLC set up, acquire 0% interest business funds for them, we pitch the landlords and negotiate for them, then we set up the properties for them, get them launched, get them live on platforms like Airbnb, and then set up all the automations, pricing, all the automated management systems, either with automated tools and resources or AI to take care of everything for them. Now, the thing I wish someone had told me when I started is that going solo is the most expensive move in the whole game. I thought asking or using help was, weakness, or it was just gonna cost me more money, right? But I should have tried it earlier, because in Monopoly, you can't build a hotel until you've got houses on every property in that color set. And you can't get there in arbitrage either if you're stuck managing every property by hand. It cost me years I'm never getting back, and would have ended this whole thing if I hadn't figured it out in time. And if you're stacking houses on every tile yourself, the game ends up playing you. So tip I have is to work on your business and not in your business. And that's the third and most helpful cheat code at scale while growing your business. Now, these are the cheat codes that break the ceiling most operators hit on the way to real scale and real growth. But the cheat codes only matter if you know how to fund and structure the business that runs them. And that's where most people stall out long before they've ever gotten their first property. Every operator on this board ends up on one of two squares. Either you stay a piece of somebody else's that is being moved around, passing go every 2 weeks for a paycheck that doesn't keep up with rent, or you become the one moving the pieces and stack houses on every tile. The three cheat codes are the move from one square to the other. So go watch this video here where I lay out the full step-by-step on starting a rental arbitrage business in 2026 without owning a property or pulling a dollar out of your own pocket. I'll see you there. Peace.